everyone. My name is Brooke Williams and I am the Ghost Center mentor at Richland High School. This video is going to be going over the basic steps to completing the FAFSA application, from creating your FAFSA ID to logging onto the FAFSA and signing and submitting the FAFSA. Some general things that you should know before starting your first FAFSA application, and just some tips and tricks that I think would be valuable to share with you guys. I'm not going to be going into super detail, however, I can make a video where I do go into detail over, FAQs on the FAFSA application. But this is just going to be a broad introduction to what the FAFSA is and the general steps you need to take to complete it. So a quick breakdown of what the FAFSA is. The acronym breakdown is Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And basically, colleges will use your FAFSA application to determine your financial aid eligibility. So you are going to get a student aid report after your FAFSA has been processed. That is going to be sent to the different colleges that you list within the application, and then they will be able to review that and provide you with the financial aid opportunities that you are eligible for based off of the financial information that you submitted in the application, which I will be going over in a little bit, like what documents you will be providing and what exact financial information you'll be putting in there, but that is what is assessed to determine your eligibility. Students can receive scholarships, grants, work-study positions, and loans. A work-study position is the opportunity to work on campus as like a student position to receive your aid that way. There are a bunch of different opportunities that universities offer as work-study positions, but it is just another way that students can be eligible to receive aid. Filling out the FAFSA does not mean that you are going to get a grant or a scholarship or work-study position or a loan, but this is a way to apply and be eligible for those. It all just kind of depends on how your financial situation is assessed and what they determine you are eligible for. And it might differ. You might get different offers from different universities. They're not going to be the same from university to university. But that's pretty much what the FAFSA is. That is what you will be completing, and it is super, super valuable. And in fact, it's becoming almost a required thing for students to be completing. A lot of scholarships, external scholarships that students will apply for, a requirement will be that they have filled out a FAFSA application. Some colleges required it as well, so it is very important that you get this done as soon as possible, as well as the fact that FAFSA is a first come first serve basis application. So it opens in October, and it's open from that point on, and if you apply later, you're less likely to receive scholarships and grants as if you were to apply right when it opens. I always recommend to the juniors that I work with that they keep it in mind that October 1st of their senior year, this FAFSA application is going to open, and that they are going to want to complete it as soon as possible. So since we are past that date, make sure that you are doing this as soon as possible. And we'll be going over the steps here right now. So I've listed out 4 steps to success here in completing the FAFSA. It's a bit of a process to complete the FAFSA, but it really is nothing too difficult, and I think that having kind of 4 steps helps break it down and make it a little bit easier to digest. So the first thing you're going to want to do is gather all of your financial and personal identification documents that are required for the 21-22 FAFSA application. In the next slide, I'm going to be going over what exactly those documents are, but that is going to be the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you have all of those documents ready to go so you can sit down and get this process done in one sitting. I promise that is going to be the easiest thing for you to do rather than trying and completing it over a span of days or hours. Just if you can just sit down and hash it out, I promise it's not that bad. Take an hour or two to complete, but you'll be glad you finished it once you're done. So get all those documents ready, and then you'll be good to go for step 2, which is creating an FSA ID. I like to refer to the FSA ID as almost the key to your FAFSA application. This is how you log into the application. This is how you electronically sign the application to be able to submit it. So it really is the key to the FAFSA application, and both the student and the parent need to create an FSA ID. You only need to create one. So if you are a parent and you already have a kid who's in college and you've been through this process before and you already have an FSA ID, you do not need to create another one. However, every single senior, if they have not created one before, needs to create one of their own. Step 3 will be logging into the 21-22 FAFSA application and filling it out. I will be going over a little bit more about what that looks like and what's entailed for that, but that would be step 3. And then the last step is reviewing the FAFSA and signing and submitting it. So, once broken down, it is pretty easy to digest. It's really not that scary. I'm hoping that maybe after I go in more depth and over all these steps, you'll feel a little bit more comfortable with this process. So the documents that you are going to need to collect are the 2019 tax record and financial documents. Note the year on this. This is 2019 tax records and financial documents. We are filling out the 2022 FAFSA application, but we are using 2019 tax documents in the application. So just make sure that you aren't using your, last year's tax documents. You're using the 2019 tax documents. And we're going to need these from both the parent and student, if applicable. So if the student didn't fill out or didn't file a W-2, then of course they're not going to have to provide that information. But if they did file a W-2 in 2019, if parent did file a W-2 in 2019, then you're going to have to put that information on the FAFSA. So W-2s, 1040s, and a list of assets are going to be the documents that you're going to need. And again, 2019 list of assets, 2019, 1040, 2019 W-2. The next document that you're going to need is your social security number. Again, both parent and student. You're going to use this to create your FSA ID, and it will also be on your FAFSA. So you need to have that handy as well. Driver's license number, both parent and student, is another document you're going to need, or I guess number you're going to need if applicable. And then lastly, the list of schools that the student is interested in attending. And let me just make a quick note on this. Any school that you think you might go to, you're going to want to list on this FAFSA application. It's a bit tricky to go back into the FAFSA and resend. I shouldn't say tricky, but it's just almost an unnecessary step to have to go back into the FAFSA application and resend out your financial aid application to these schools. So if you think that, you might, if you're applying to any college that you're applying to, send the scores to. I think that's the best rule of thumb here. It's just going to be a lot easier on you. If for some reason you submitted your application and then decided that you wanted to apply to another school, and you want them to have access to your FAFSA application as well, all you'd have to do is go back and make an edit to the FAFSA application, and then make sure that you delete all of the previous schools that you have already sent your FAFSA to in the application. So let's say you sent, the first time you submitted your FAFSA application, you sent them to college A, B, and C, and you want to also send to college D. Well, you're going to go in whenever you make the change to resubmit the FAFSA, you're going to delete college A, B, and C, and then on that list, it would only say college D that you would send the FAFSA too, because if you send it again, those schools you're going to get your application again, it's going to be a little tricky. But the best way to avoid all of that mess is just make sure that any school that you think you are going to apply to, that you are applying to, you're in the process of applying to, you are listing on the FAFSA. They're not going to, if you end up not going to that college, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be using your financial aid information, nor will they have access to it at that point, but this just gives you an opportunity to make sure that every school has access to your FAFSA application if you are still definitely deciding between different schools. Okay, so creating your FAFSA ID, we're on to step 2. So you're going to want to create, again, an FAFSA ID for both the parent and the student. Again, if a parent has an older sibling who is already in college and they've already gone through this process, they've already created an FAFSA ID, they do not need to create another one. They can use the one that they've already created. The student, however, if you have never created an FAFSA ID, you've never filled out a FAFSA application, then do make sure that you create an FAFSA ID, as this is going to be your way into the application and tying it to your information. So when you create the FAFSA ID, you're going to create a username and a password. Make sure that these are rememberable information. Write it down somewhere. People put it in their notes, or they'll write it on one of the documents they're using to fill out the application. Just make sure that you don't forget this information. Like I said, it's very valuable and important to have, as it's going to be how you get in and out of your FAFSA application. And then there's going to be, it's going to ask in the FAFSA ID, once you create your username and password, it's going to ask you for your email, your date of birth, your social security number, your first name, middle name, last name, all that kind of information. It's going to ask you some challenge questions if you forget your password or something like that to get back into your account. So again, as long as you have the documents we just went over gathered, you'll be fine to fill out this form to create your FAFSA ID. So just make sure, again, you have those documents ready to provide any information that it asks for. And I've listed the website down here. And another thing you can do, literally, if you just type into Google create FAFSA ID, it's going to take you to this page over here. It's probably going to be the first link that says create an FAFSA ID. And you'll click that and it'll take you to this page. If for some reason you do need to edit your FAFSA ID, or if you just want to look at the information, check it, there is this manage my FAFSA ID button you can see over here on the screen. So just make sure that you are noting that that is available for you to use. Let's see if I have a little, oh, I do, I have a little pointer. So right here, manage my FAFSA ID. If you click that, then you can go in and look at all of that information. Okay, so now we have created our FAFSA IDs, both student and parent, and it's finally time to start this FAFSA application. So you're going to go, I have the website listed here. You can also just type into a browser FAFSA application, and it'll take you to here as well. If you get to the home page, it's going to say there's going to be a button up at the top, and it's going to ask new to process, start here, and you'll click that button if you're new to the process, or if you haven't already started your 21-22 FAFSA application. It's going to ask if you're the parent or the student, so clarify whichever one you are, and then you'll log in using that FAFSA ID information that you created. Just to note, if you just created your FAFSA ID and now you're logging into the FAFSA, like immediately after, sometimes it won't recognize that FAFSA ID username. And if it does this, I would just give it about 24 hours to get that username activated, and so try again. If it's not working, give it a couple hours. If it's still not working, wait until the next day and try again, and then usually that will work. If you're still having issues, the FAFSA helpline, or help like the customer service line that's listed on their website, is very, very helpful. I've never had a problem contacting or getting help from them. They're very quick, and they really do walk you through whatever problems that you are having. So if for some reason you're just not being able to access an application, give them a call. I think there might even be like a little chat box if you just want to type what problem that you're having. But they're definitely very, very, very good at that. So once you log in, it's going to have you also create this thing called a save key. What this is it's another key to the application. They love passwords. But hey, at least you know it's secure. But pretty much what it's going to do is if you don't want to complete the FAFSA in one sitting and you need to, you're just working on it during a break and you need to, save and exit, to log back in and start where you left off, you're going to enter this save key. So make it something memorable. Again, write it down. Don't forget it. If you do forget it, you'll have challenge questions to open it back up, but the easiest thing is just not to forget it. And then my last note in filling out the FAFSA application, once you get by here, you're going to get into all of the financial information, is just fill out the application carefully. Try not to rush through and just start typing things in. Watch, the zeros that you're putting in. Making sure you're not putting, commas or periods, or just pay really close attention to how you're entering information. You don't want it to get flagged for verification, because that's just like a whole nother process. It's going to take time from you. If your application does get flagged for verification, what that means is they noticed an error within your application, or they noticed something that just seems a little off, and they're just going to ask you to pretty much provide them with a little bit more documentation to prove your financial status. And so it's nothing to get freaked out about. It's just kind of another step that you're going to have to complete that's a little time consuming. So just make sure you're trying to avoid that by filling out the application carefully. If you do have a question, if you don't understand what a question is asking, what information it's wanting from you, there are these little question marks next to the question that you can click. It'll open up a new tab, and it will walk you through what it's asking you, where to find that information on the documents that you have. So like what line on the W-2, or where in the 1040, or if you have a Schedule K. It's going to tell you where to find it, and it's also going to tell you, if it's asking for a title of some kind of information that you don't know what that is, it'll tell you what it is. So they have pretty detailed instructions on what they're asking for. So if you do not know what something is, click that little question mark, and that should help you figure it out pretty easily. The next thing I want to point out is this thing called the IRS data retrieval tool. When you start into the financial information of the application, you might see this little link down here at the bottom on the picture on the PowerPoint that says IRS data retrieval tool. And then it has the button that says link to IRS. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you use this tool. It helps, the application go a lot faster, because it's going to autofill a lot of the information straight from the IRS. But it also, because of that, it automatically fills the information onto the FAFSA application. It accounts for a lot less error, which means that your chances of getting flagged for verification are going to be a lot lower. So I highly recommend using this data retrieval tool. A lot of people, the reason they won't do it is because they don't know what it is. So just know that it is highly recommended that you use. It is super, super helpful. But the key to using it is you have to fill out the information on the form that it takes you to exactly as that information appears on your W-2. So if you look at that, and like the address is 123 South Center Street, and street is spelled ST, then whenever you fill out the IRS data retrieval tool form, it has to say 123 South Center ST, not spelled out street. I mean, it is that meticulous. So just make sure that all of the information is the same whenever you're filling out the form. Even like if you have an abbreviation to your name, I mean, like all of it has to be the same. So just double check that when you're filling it out, and then it'll work. If you do fill out the form and you don't put the correct information, then it's not going to show that you have anything to link. So if it does give you that error message, just double check the information that you put in and try making those edits to be the same information. That way you can have it autofill. If it still doesn't work and you can't figure it out, then you can still manually fill out the rest of the application. I would just say at that point, be very careful and just, again, pay attention to what you're filling in into all of the boxes, and you'll be fine. And just, you know, it's nothing to be scared of. If you make a mistake, you can correct it. If you get flagged for verification because you made a mistake, you can correct it. It's just a little bit extra of extra steps, but just be very careful and try to avoid having to make a correction. But once you are done with the FAFSA, all that is left is signing and submitting. So on the sign and submit page, right before you get to it, you're going to have an option it's going to say FAFSA summary, and it's just going to show every single question that was asked to you on the FAFSA and every answer that you submitted. So you can easily, in that one pane, view everything and review the whole FAFSA. So just carefully read through the FAFSA summary, make sure that all the information that you put in is correct, and to the best of your knowledge. And if it is, then you're going to sign using your FAFSA ID. Pretty much it's going to say student signature and parent signature, like on the picture, and it's going to give you a button to click that says sign electronically. You'll click that button and you'll put in your FAFSA ID, and it'll sign that for you. Once both are signed, you can then submit the FAFSA, and then you can log back on to check your financial aid status. If for some reason you can't sign it electronically, you can print it out and sign it and then mail it. But that has its own steps, and the address that you would use to do that is listed on the FAFSA website. Easiest thing to do, again, is just signing electronically, that you can do, so you can do that like in your one sitting. If you do have issues with being able to sign, again, I would contact the help desk. They are pretty quick to respond, and you are more than welcome to contact me, set up an appointment to walk through the FAFSA. If you do have detailed questions about the FAFSA, I would like to say that there is actually, when you schedule an appointment with the Go Center, there is a button that says, one of the time things is for filling out FAFSAs. So if you do need help, or if you just want someone there while you're filling it out, parents and students both are more than welcome to schedule an appointment, and I can help walk you through the process or answer any questions that you might have about it, or at least help you get to the information, help you find the information if I don't know how to fix the issue that you're seeing, which would really just be if you're having some kind of technical issue. That would be what I really wouldn't know how to fix, but we can together contact FAFSA and see what they want us to do. So this is pretty much, again, the very basic steps to completing the FAFSA. Hopefully this helps you feel a little bit more comfortable with the overall process. And just one more time, if you do have questions, please email me. You can email the Go Center email, which is richlandhsgocenter@gmail.com. You can email my work email, which is brooke.williams@uta.edu. You can schedule an appointment using our Appointlet link, and we will meet through Zoom, and that is listed in the description, our YouTube account description. It is listed there. You can contact me on social media. You can DM, and the handles for Twitter and Instagram both are RHS_Go Center. And if you just want to pay, or if you just want to be able to have access to information, we do have a Padlet as well, and that information is listed again in our bio. So do make sure that you contact us if you have questions, if you just want to keep in touch, or look at the information that we're posting. Do give that a look. But hopefully, again, this helps you feel a little bit more comfortable with the FAFSA process. And don't forget to get started as soon as possible for your chance at the most out of FAFSA. Have a great one, y'all.